Are we live? Of course we are. We should be. People deluded. I'm back again. I'm here with a good mate of mine, a very knowledgeable Arsenal fan, and we haven't done it for a while. Feels like we've been a bit foreign. But anyways, Mo, what are you saying, man? How you doing on this Friday, man?
I am good, man. I'm good. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. We get it kicked off. We get the fixtures kicked off this game week. So I'm hoping it's one of those ones where you can get started, get a nice win early, sit back and relax, and be able to partake in some banter when our rivals slip up. But let's hope it goes that way.
I mean, you did a good job there of selling it for positivity to me. Let's hope it is. As you know, it's a big test against Leicester and Brendan Rodgers. Just before we get into that, obviously, we haven't spoken for a while on either platform. I know I've done my content on yours. So just before that game, where was you at when it comes to Brighton and Palace and what was said around those games and how we played and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, it was, look, I think you got to respect that Brighton are putting a marker down to say they're a proper team, they're a good team. You can't just expect to go to Brighton and just win. But given that, the conversation around that time was, are Arsenal turning a corner and everything? And I really felt like it would have been really nice to solidify that hope that, yes, we are turning a corner with a good away win, because I wouldn't have looked down on an away win at Brighton. Clearly, I'm saying they're a good team. And I think,
Facts.
especially with the fact that Bissouma wasn't there on that day, he wasn't playing on that day, I thought, come on, Arsenal, let's take it to them. I feel like it was a missed opportunity. Don't think we played very well. Palace as well, missed opportunity, and we definitely lost the midfield battle. But all in all, now what are we? Unbeaten in 8?
Good, it's good. I mean, you can't deny with the facts, it's decent. But let me, as you said that made me want to ask you something. Where are you at in this whole turn the corner stuff? Because as you said, it's a very precious situation. People might have had different thoughts after the Brighton and Palace game. We were quite good against Villa, probably our best performance along with Spurs. Where are you at in terms of turning the corner and all of these sort of things that are being said?
Yeah, so I think after the Palace game, I tweeted and I said this result today puts that whole conversation to bed. And someone corrected me and said, actually, no, it doesn't put it to bed. What it does, it makes it inconclusive. And I thought, you know what, fair
That's
enough.
a good logic.
Yeah,
Fair play.
yeah, I thought, fine, I stand corrected. That's right. And since then, we've done okay, but I still don't think that we can say we've truly turned the corner yet. I still think it's an inconclusive one, because the level of opposition that we've played isn't one where I kind of feel like we can really take any strong conclusions from. So today I was looking at the fixture list and I tweeted this and I listed out the next 6 games.
Yeah, I saw that. That was inspiration for my earlier stream.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because those next 6
you,
games,
man.
I think they're going to tell us everything that we need to know. I really do. We've got 2 easy home games in there. So anything less than 6 points in those home games will be really unacceptable. And also, when you look at our away games, Leicester, United,
Anfield, Goodison
Liverpool,
Park.
and Everton. So they all
Sounds positive.
I mean, all 4 of those games, when you're looking from the home team's point of view, if you're going to talk to Leicester, Liverpool, United, or Everton fans and say, what do you want to happen against Arsenal? What do you expect to happen against Arsenal? None of them would turn around and say, oh, yeah, if we lose, you respect Arsenal, a good team. None of them are going to say that. Arsenal don't carry that anymore.
3 points or nothing less.
Yeah, they're going to want to win those games. And I think a draw is the most you'll get out. Maybe an Everton fan might say, oh, we're a bit choppy at home, whatever. So if we don't win our home games, we know there's going to be 4 difficult away games. And this is what I was talking about in terms of turning a corner. A good team, well, let's say an average team, gets 6 points at home and then maybe 1 or 2 draws away. Yeah, so you might win 2, lose 2, draw 2 out of those 6 games. That's not good form. That's average.
Standard.
So if Arsenal go and get 6, 7, 8 points, that's bang average. If we can go and say, actually, no, we'll go and win one of those away games and then draw another, and we get to 10 points, that's where I say, yeah, that's good. No one's expecting us to go and win all of these games, go and get 18 points or even 15 points, 10 points, and I think then we can start saying, okay, Arsenal are a team where you more often than not go and get the result. That's how I see it. So what was your conclusion about those 6 games?
Bro, I can't lie, I need to bring it up again, but I'm scared, man. Like you said, for me personally, I think you've got to go and earn the right to play at half of these teams. Like Liverpool, I think looking at the Liverpool one, that's probably the only one I would say is a complete write-off for me.
Yeah.
Go there, try and perform and all of that stuff. But I look at Everton, again, I always preach looking back at last season, we lost that for ourselves. I remember Yerry Mina and Michael Keane being playmakers in that game, and we let ourselves down via set pieces, stand up to be counted. As you said, we should be beating teams like Watford, but they're a bit of a bogey team. But at the end of the day, you need 3 points. So I'm like where you're at. It's like we're going to learn a lot about it, because I kind of wanted to, I forgot the question I wanted to ask you earlier, but it was alluding to the fact of, I don't think we've really, not that we haven't answered any questions. I like the fact of, when you look at the fact that Villa lost 2 games prior to playing us and Spurs were in woeful form, we weren't the typical team where they turn the corner and go on a run. We was able to just keep it moving in that regard. But in relation to Brighton, and I do think people exaggerate Crystal Palace's form, anytime we seem to play against a team that's in form or galvanized or earning some sort of plaudits, we don't necessarily get the result. Now, fair play, when you can't win, don't lose. And that actually brings me on to another question. Do you think, not that there's an unrealistic expectation, we know Arsenal could do a lot better, we need to improve at, not conceding cheap goals and things, but do you think there's almost an unhealthy obsession with, not that we want to win every game, but it's almost like, hang about, like, we were poor against Brighton, but that's an informed team, and you need to consider where we're at, because I do think there is no balance where we're concerned.
Yeah, I really agree with the no balance thing, because, after the first 3 games of the season, it was, everyone was ready to jump off a cliff. It was kind of like, Arsenal finished. And then we went and put a good run together. Then we drew against Brighton and Palace, and the mood was really low. And then, we've gone and won our last 2 games. And I feel like the fan base, the whole mood of the fan base just changes so quickly. And people don't really
crazy volatile, man.
Yeah, man, big time. And like you're saying, I don't think people look at who we're playing and at what point we're playing them. So against Tottenham, I feel like it was the perfect time to play them. They were awful on that day. So that's why I've had to reserve judgment. And it's a tough one, because where people are kind of saying, oh, Arsenal are brilliant now, we're really, really good, Arteta's really proved himself, I just think to myself, I don't really see how you're coming up with that conclusion. If you say that, you're negative. And then obviously, then there's people who are kind of saying that, oh, Arsenal is still crap. And, that when they say that, well, I think to myself, well, you truly are negative, because how can you make either of those conclusions right now?
You're lying to yourself, really.
Yeah, I don't know if Arsenal are a good team or an average team. I wouldn't say we're crap. I wouldn't say we're great. I think we're either good or average, and I can't figure out which one it is.
I think we're torn between a 4 and a 5, maybe 6 max, because again, I don't want to sound like I'm cherry picking, because when you look at our team, it's basically elementary. They're learning a lot of new habits, trying to unlearn some. A lot of them have never played at this level, and the intricacies that come with it. But it's one of those, like, personally, I think we're still in the same territory. I always say it, that we was last season. We've seen a lot of this under Arteta. We've seen it with these boys. We know they can put in a performance. We can cherry pick a couple from last season. We know we have an ugly performance with us. We know at the start of the season there's a lot of luxuries we can afford to the team. Beyond that, we didn't do much. So I still think we're in the same territory we normally are, in that we struggle to really just do it consistently. You never quite understand what Arsenal is going to turn up, and it needs to half turn up tomorrow. I feel we draw too many conclusions where our team is concerned, and for me it's the individual mistakes. Like, if we were to really, really cherry pick these games, the Spurs and Villa games, you look at the goals we've conceded in both. Again, the goals against Palace, you need to earn the right to play, and you need to respect the clean sheet. And I look at a team like Leicester, and I want to move on to Leicester now. They're a team that from minute 0 to 90, they can always do something. We've seen it against Brentford. We've seen it against United.
Absolutely. But it's interesting with Leicester. We're 11 points with them. We're 11 points with Everton, 11 points with Man United. And these are all teams that, I kind of feel like, off the top of my head, because of how, there's expectation and reality. What I expect of Arsenal is so much higher than our current reality that it makes me feel like we're doing worse than Leicester, that we're doing worse than Everton, that we're doing worse than Man United. But the reality actually is that we're all points with them. So
look at Spurs.
Leicester, I think, have been very choppy, this season. And I can't actually believe, when I look at the table, that they're having as bad of a season in the league as Arsenal, because I think we've been awful.
That's where the narratives that's where I feel it's the narrative. I feel when you actually look at the table, it tells a different story. And that's what I felt a bit with Palace. Like, don't get it twisted, Vieira propaganda and whatnot. But the amount of plaudits to actually what's happening, I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but it's different from the fact, Spurs have been the best team in August, relegated under Nuno now. Things keep changing. We were relegated, and now Jamie Carragher saying we're going to be the best of a chasing pack. You mentioned the 6 games as well. Now, it starts with Leicester. Where are you at with this? Because as you said, we're unbeaten. I won't say we're playing amazing, but we're not playing appalling. We're in a very difficult scenario now. We need to stand up to be counted. So where are you at with this Leicester game? What are you expecting? What's your feelings on that team? What would be your lineup? Just everything Leicester created. Leicester
Everything
thingy, bro.
Leicester. I mean, let's do it, man. I don't know where the hell I stand with Leicester. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull up their results. Yeah.
Go on.
So they drew at home to Brighton. They beat Brentford away. Oh, that is in the EFL Cup. So forget it, actually. Let's just focus on the league. They beat Brentford away. That's a good result. We know that now.
Something
They
we
beat
couldn't do.
United 4-2 at home. They drew 2-2 to Palace away from home. Well, it's almost like a bit similar to us, really, isn't it? They drew at home to Burnley. That obviously very poor. They lost away to Brighton. They've been all over the place. Lost at home to Man City. There's no shame in that. There's nothing in there form-wise that concerns me. But then you'd expect that if they're on the same number of points as us. The story of their season that has gotten to this stage of the season where they're on level points with Arsenal is very similar to Arsenal's story of the season.
Facts.
So I really feel like it's one of those games that's absolutely impossible to really, really understand what's going to happen going into it. You get Leicester that somehow play brilliantly and then somehow are awful, and Arsenal are the same. But what I would say, looking at Arsenal with the naked eye, I have seen an improvement this season. And when you think about Arsenal have been, we were awful at the start of the season. So how many games into the league are we? We are
about 8, 9, isn't it?
I'm just going to check that because, right, so we're 14 games. No, not 14 games. That's the championship. We are 9 games into the season. So what you can say is 33% of our Premier League season was a bit of a write-off. Those first 3 games, I don't think were reflective of Arsenal's true level. So on that basis, saying the last 6 games, Leicester haven't been as good as Arsenal. And I think that I do have maybe it's unfounded. I'm so reluctant to say it, deluded, man. But
no, man, say what you feel, bro. This is the point, man. You're allowed to.
I've got a bit of confidence going into the game that we can at least go and get something. So I don't.
We won there last year, did we not? And we was a goal down.
And I don't expect to lose. But then I look at Leicester United, and they did really well against them. But then again, United are awful as well. But I think we'll draw. That's what I think will happen.
I mean, me personally, bro, I will take a point. I feel, obviously, I don't want to sound defeated and say I want to accept a point. I just feel fans have to keep some balance with things, and a point against Leicester, regardless of their form, is a point against Leicester. It's a good point. What I want to see is, you look at the fact in the league, I think you actually have to go back to maybe August, September for when they've actually kept a clean sheet. We know they've had some injuries. We know people are fit and whatnot, but they're just like us. They can concede cheap goals. So I would like to see us be respectful of them and what they can do on the transition and the counter attack and all those things. But I want to be aggressive. I want to have shots. I almost feel to a degree I am overselling Leicester, as great as they are and as much as I have plaudits for them. So I want to see bravery. I do think this is a game where, I don't think we've played, if I'm scrutinizing it, we haven't played well for the whole 90 minutes. I'm a bit nervous because I feel this is the one game you can't have the little Villa moments and the little Spurs moments unless we were to score a lot of goals. And again, I want to see bravery because you mentioned it. The next 6 games, the reality is you either curl into a ball or you stand up to be counted and really set down a marker. And then crucially, you mentioned away form. Fair enough, we've been dealt a shorthand with the away games we've played so far, with the exception of probably Burnley. But I want to see a performance. And what really scares me is, regardless of what other teams are doing, you need to take accountability. If we're fighting for top 4 of Europe, Spurs are playing United. Can you get 3 points? Can you set the tone? Is where I'm at with this. So I'm with you. It's like I do feel a bit of confidence. I do feel an air of uncertainty. Again, the 12:30 kickoff. I don't know where to go with this game, really and truly. Yeah. I'm sitting on the fence, man. I'll back us and say 2-1, but you give me a point before the game, I'm taking it. I can't lie.
Exactly. But what I do want to see is us respect their players who this season have been playing brilliantly, and that for me
and whatnot,
is Vardy, Tielemans, and Söyüncü. I think those 3 as a spine have been so good. And when you look at Söyüncü, he is the one that they play out the back from. Whenever I watch Leicester, I kind of feel like he's getting the
Did a Michelin tap won him as well at our club, if I remember correctly. It didn't happen. I'm pretty sure Mislintat wanted him when he was at Arsenal, and we kind of turned up our nose at that as fans. But look how it's turned out for Leicester.
Yeah, I think he's doing a really good job there. And Tielemans, I think, has been one of the midfielders of the Premier League season so far. I think he's been playing brilliantly. Jamie Vardy, you just can't keep him down. Everyone is talking about Mohamed Salah right now, and rightly so. But if you take Salah out of the picture, Vardy's second in that top scorer list. So we can't
Shame in that.
ignore him, and his ability. And he likes scoring against Arsenal. So we need to make sure that we kind of cut off Vardy's supply, and that is by giving Tielemans not so much a man marker or a shadow, but making sure he doesn't win that midfield battle and he doesn't have the ability to shoot from range, because he's shown he can score goals and he doesn't have too much time on the ball. That's really important, because you're not going to go from Soyuncu to Vardy. Leicester don't play like that. Tielemans is going to be in the middle there.
Transition.
Yeah, and if you stop Tielemans receiving the ball from Soyuncu and stop Vardy receiving the ball from Tielemans, that means your key guy, for me, is taking care of Tielemans. And I want to see Arsenal do that and understand that danger.
I mean, you said it there, and that's kind of for me why I start Lacazette, because the way you said it, I know Telemans and Douglas Luiz play a different way, but the man marking job Lacazette kind of did just to press him. It kind of stopped them playing out from the back, and that's what I want to see in that game, and that's where I'm kind of nervous, because they can cut you open in free passes. And I look at it, fair play. We passed the Harry Kane test against Spurs. People might say Burnley's a bad game, but for a young and new look defense, it's not a pretty day to go up to Turf Moor. They came through that. Brighton, you walked away with it regardless. Can you do it now against, as you said, one of the arguably the best performing player in the league? He seems to show no signs of slowing down. He scores against us. So it's a big day for all our defenders. I don't know if Ben White's going to be fit, Arteta said. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, to be fair with you. And, again, it's just for me, the ability to focus. What do you make of Arteta? Because would you go with a 4-4-2 in that game? Because it worked for us in our last game. I don't know if it will work against Leicester.
I would definitely go for two holding midfielders. So on that basis, I'm not sure about the 4-4-2. I think it might have to be 5 in the middle. So I'd certainly do the 4 at the back, but I want the two holding midfielders away to Leicester, because Maddison, he has been awful generally this season.
Finding his form now, yeah.
He's just finding his form now. And he might have a point to prove, when it comes to playing Arsenal. When you're linked with the team and everything, you think, let me just show them what they missed out on. So I do think that midfield battle is going to be crucial. And against Palace, that's why we didn't win that game, because we lost that midfield battle. So
and kind of Brighton as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really, really crucial. But then that means that you're not playing Laka, because for me, I'd always start with Aubameyang, given that he's in good form as well. And that is really harsh on Laka. So I hear what you're saying, that you play Laka to do that job. I'm not sure if that would maybe be a bit too...
So what formation in 11 you going with then?
So
assuming everyone's fit if possible, and then we'll talk about injuries.
Fine, okay, yeah. So in that case, the back 5 we know is consistent: White, Gabriel, Tomiyasu, Tierney, and then Ramsdale. I would be putting Saka on the right, yeah, and then in the middle. Well, what's the latest with Xhaka? What is he injured?
Yeah, Xhaka's gone, man. Xhaka's gone.
Yeah, fine.
He's not
so
a thing.
then I'm saying Lokonga, Partey in the middle. Yeah.
Same.
Now I'd be putting Emile Smith-Rowe ahead of them. And because I feel like we need to play on the counter against Leicester, I'm tempted to, and I know this is like not going to be popular with people, but I'm tempted to say Pepe.
Oh, explain why, man. I love it. Gone against the grain there.
Because the reason why is I want a response from him, and I haven't given up hope on Pepe. I know a lot of people have, but I think to myself, he's not going to be expecting to start against Leicester after his performance midweek. I don't think he'll be expecting it. And if the manager says to him, listen, I've got faith in you, I'm going to play you in this game, show me what you can do, I just wonder whether he'll respond to that. Of course, we can play Ødegaard and, maybe even push Emile Smith-Rowe to the left, or Immo can go on the right and Saka can go on the left. But I'd like to just say, look, all your job is, because I think Saka's better on the right. And if we play Saka on the right and we say to Pepe on the left, your only job, don't worry about cutting in and trying to score top bins. All I'm saying is give your defender hell, and it's Pereira. He's no mug. beat him a couple of times, put a good couple of crosses into the box,
Facts.
create a couple of chances. That's all I'm asking of you. Just go and do that. And
That's
keep
it.
it a little bit simple rather than overplaying. I'd like to see that. I really would like to see that. And especially if we're only playing Aubameyang up top, I'd then say to him as well that, make sure that you're sort of like playing that hybrid role between a winger and giving Pereira hell, and then coming inside, giving Pereira something to think about, and letting, if it is Tierney, letting him overlap and playing that second striker
Creating
sort of role.
overloads and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that could work, but maybe it's a bit too brave playing Pepe after the performance we saw midweek. So I don't know what you think about that and what people in the comments think.
I mean, in relation, I want to press you on Pepe in a bit more, but just in terms of what I think it's a brave one. Personally, my opinions on Pepe, I mean, incredibly frustrating. Sometimes there's a bit of genius, there's a bit of brilliance. I think there's a moment we all saw in that game. He's done a brilliant bit of trickery, and then he's doing so many skills. His brain is going faster than his feet, and he's falling on the floor. That sums up Nicolas Pepe. I do think he's being scapegoated a bit, and it's getting a bit toxic where he's regarded and whatnot, because I do think it's got to the point, not that I advocate, well, you slaughter this one and not slaughter that one. I just think a lot of people get a lucky break. I do agree with you. I think Pepe on the left, that's you. There's less things to think about. Be more of a traditional winger. I feel a bit like you as well, but I would say on top of that, Saka, I know his form's a bit shaky. Arguably, a couple of games ago, he probably was our worst player. But right now, he is arguably with Smith Rowe, they're our most important players. I don't think what Pepe brings to the 11 justifies currently moving Saka to the left-hand side. And this is out coming from someone who I think we over-exaggerate who goes on the left and right where them two are concerned. They should be swapping and all of these things in one day. So that's where I'm at with Pepe. In relation to my lineup against Leicester, I'm tempted to. I mean, I can't. After the game, if Arteta plays the same lineup, I'm going to sit here and say, "Why did you do this? Could we have done that?" Everyone's a genius in hindsight, but I just feel with Arsenal standard, a bit like the Spurs game, if he does go with that same 11, I can't really say anything because it was spot on. It's one of our performances so far of the season. I know the bars on the floor, but for me, it's a techie one because again, have I still got it up? I think I actually did a tactical review, and I think I was tempted to keep it the same, but I kind of went with a 4. I went with, if Tavares is fit, Tavares / Tierney, I'd start Tierney. You can't really drop Tavares, but I went Ramsdale. The whole back five remains the same, if everyone's fit. If Ben White's not there, then I throw in Holding to play with Gabriel. Tierney and Tomiyasu speak for themselves. I'm a bit scared, honestly, about Lokonga and Partey. I think it's a pivot that needs to be able to work long term. We need to play with 2 6s. And they were good in their last outing, but I look at Brighton, I look at Palace, they struggled. I need them to up it, but I go with them. I probably go with Smith Rowe in a sort of 10 role, but I need him to be a bit of a hybrid, like out of possession. I need you to kind of cover on the left-hand side. I need you to go in like the half space, what he normally does, and press. And then I'm going with 2 up front in Laka and Aubameyang, and then Saka takes up the other position. Saka gives you a bit of security. That being said, I'm tempted to go 3 at the back, but my problem is it's derailed with Ben White. I don't really know who you get because I'm trying to think from a Leicester point of view, they're going to probably go with the same formation they did against Villa. Now, if we look at their fullbacks, as you said, Pereira's sick, Cassandra isn't a slouch either. They're dramatically better than Villa's fullbacks. Villa's fullbacks, if their system was better, if they had more ability, Matty Cash and Target could have asked more questions. And I think on another day, we might be looking at Tavares. I don't think we've learned enough about him going backwards. Not that Tierney's been good. And for me, this is why I kind of want to play this because you kind of get Lacazette and Smith Rowe will drop. If we lose that midfield battle playing a 4-4-2, is peak. It really is. And and like you saw against Villa, they didn't ask no questions. When they did start asking questions, we looked a bit shaky. So I really don't know. A part of me wants to go with 3 at the back because of the safety net, but I feel we've got a weird old squad that if we suddenly just switch to a 3, they're going to somehow look like a 4 on the field because they do this. I'm not sure if the IQ and the level of understanding is quite there in this young bunch here and naive bunch.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? Because what I'm saying about Pepe, giving him that chance, putting the onus on him, it's easy for me because my job doesn't depend on it. But I have to think from the manager's point of view, managers play who they can trust.
That's it.
That trust conversation becomes more and more important depending on the fixture. So home games against, let's say, Leeds in the EFL, yeah, you can trust Pepe. Away at Leicester in the league, maybe not.
Over the 90 as well, yeah.
We're 6 points away from 3rd, but we're also 6 points away from 16th. So it's
such is life as an Arsenal fan. Bloody hell.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those ones where you need to be able to trust the players you're putting out. And I think you're right in that Emil Smith Rowe playing maybe on that left-hand side in that inside space, and Lacazette playing as well might be what Arteta goes for based on that trust dynamic. That I think he trusts those two players, and I don't think he trusts Pepe. And ultimately, it's his job that depends on it, and that's why he'll play a man that he can trust rather than me saying, "Go on, Pepe, prove me wrong." Why play someone who has to prove you wrong when you can play someone that will prove you right in a way?
And it's like you said, I mean, managers, as you said, there's an element of jobs are on the line. You're going to get criticized regardless. But managers, guys like Pepe, it's not that he's a young player, but young players might playing there might be the most beneficial one. Like with Pepe, he might drop you an 11 out of 10, but the next week he's giving you a 4. And it's right. Like even if Smith Rowe and Saka haven't been the best, they might give you a minimum of 5. So you're right on that topic. And I think, what do you make of Arteta then going into this game? Because for me, I mean, to say he's a good tactician, for me, that's one thing I think he can do. Whether he can do it consistently is another thing. But he's gone into big games and shown he's got a thing. And he's beaten Rodgers before, obviously. But I look back to the home game and it has almost no relevance because we beat them away from home. But I think he was all over Brendan Rodgers in that first half. In the second half, Rodgers started to change things, and you saw different positions Vardy was taking up. And there's been a number of times, I'm pretty sure you must have seen it at the Emirates. It's like, not that we know more than Arteta, but everybody can see something. Whether it's Marie against Lukaku, you can see danger signs, and it's like everyone can see it. But as you said, the man whose job's on the line, the man who is the decision maker. So where are you at with Arteta going into this game? Because all right, cool, fair enough. The Spurs game, we was expected to win. Spurs is Spurs. He stood up to be counted. Our away form's been poor, and we're somewhat in a negative ratio in big games. Brighton is still a big game based on the context, as would Palace, and we flattered to deceive. The big games historically with Chelsea and Man City, we failed. So where are you at with Arteta in this game and what you want to see from him?
I feel like the Palace game told me a lot about Arteta. I was very disappointed that he lost that midfield battle at home
Very easily.
against what is a very novice manager in Patrick Vieira. So I was a bit disappointed with that. And I haven't, when we talk about the footballing community, right, as a phrase, they spoke very highly of Mikel Arteta. A lot of fans, when we'd speak about should Arteta be in the job or not, spoke about the footballing community's opinion of Mikel Arteta.
Pepe,
I'm yet to see the tactical nous and tactical brilliance that supports that conclusion of the footballing community. I feel like it's been a lot of good and a lot of bad with Mikel Arteta. But the one thing that I have found this season that has made me really happy about Arteta is that he seems to be carrying the squad with a much more harmonious manner. He was
very
out there
diplomatic in that now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, he was out there praising Aubameyang recently, and I thought to myself, good, these are the things that you need to be doing to make sure that that dressing room wants you and likes you, and and they feel like you're on their side. Last season, I don't feel like he did that. I feel like what he did in the North London derby with Aubameyang, I thought was shockingly naive as a manager. You just can't do that. You have to do that sort of thing privately and do the praising thing publicly. And I think he's been doing that a lot more this season. So that was my big complaint of him last season. Your man management is awful. And I've seen a stark improvement in that. And when you look at Aubameyang's form after the North London derby, it was awful. For a long, long time, it was awful. So far this season, he's been okay. He's been quite good. And I'd love to know the inside story. Was it anything to do with what happened that day? Because when that happened, I thought I made a mental note. I wonder what Aubameyang's going to be like in future weeks, in these coming weeks. And it seems to have an impact for me. But Arteta seems to have corrected that. So I'll give him his credit there, give him his dues there. But, let's see tactically what he does. It's these next 6 games where he's going to earn his money. Even against Liverpool, there's no Arsenal fan that's saying, oh, let's go and win there. But can you remain resolute? Can you make it into a competitive game? Can you give us a chance? Can you even avoid getting embarrassed? And this is where I want to see Arteta kind of show his worth as a tactician.
And you said it there. I feel like we said earlier, with there being no balance, I feel, especially when we play these bigger games, it's almost like, okay, cool, these teams are better than us. They beat us. But it's almost like people don't want to look at the performance. Okay, they beat us, but teams with less resources and quite frankly, less standard of player, not that means anything, make it more of a tough game. We before we praise these cities and all these teams we lose to, it's ultimately us giving away the 3 points or us not concentrating in things. And I'd say that's on the players. You made a fantastic point. I do think he's he's playing the game a bit better. I do think he's
Yeah.
being a bit like, okay, cool, I can't really just flex my muscles. I have to get a reaction out of players. And if that means stroking egos, I think he's done that with Eddie, where, it's almost like he feels he's done Eddie hard done by, and he's not been involved. On that topic, I did want to ask you, what's your feelings on Eddie Nketiah? Obviously, he's the cup king where Arsenal's concerned. Where you at with Martin Odegaard as well? And also, Bukayo Saka's form, quote unquote form.
Listen, Bukayo Saka for me is beyond criticism.
Hello, facts.
Yeah, and not forever, but given the amount of football that he's played, given obviously what happened in the Euros, and how long he's been playing above expectation. Deluded, I always say this about you. If people want to talk about Arsenal youngsters, you're the man to come to. I feel like my knowledge of Arsenal youngsters is good, and I feel like yours is a cut above.
No, man, I can't take that praise, but I appreciate
honestly,
that.
I really feel like that. So from my point of view, Emile Smith Rowe, I was banging on about him for years and years and years, yeah? And I feel like he's come good, and I feel vindicated in kind of spotting him as a real talent. Bukayo Saka was not even on my radar. Yeah, I watched games where he played, and I just never felt like he was one that was going to make it, honestly. So for me, he has been playing above expectation for so long that now, he's going to be a victim of his own sort of success. For me, that's why he's beyond that sort of criticism at this point. Even this season's form is above expectation for a Hale End graduate with his level of experience. You look at, let's say, Martinelli, right, who we were raving about a lot more than Saka.
I could have asked you about him as well. You might as well shoot off your opinions on Martinelli. Completely forgot.
He's got an unbelievably high ceiling, but he just hasn't been able to hold down a level of consistency and end product that Bukayo Saka has done, even when Saka's not playing to his best ability. So I love Saka. I still think he's a guaranteed starter at Arsenal because he's got that footballing brain. He's got that end product. Even if he's not playing well, he can still make things happen.
Still affecting games, without a doubt, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. With Odegaard, look, I've seen enough about him off the ball to make me say he's always worthwhile having in the team. I'm not like hugely excited about him. I spoke to loads of people about this particular question. Who do you think is going to have a better career? Who do you think has got a higher ceiling, Smith Rowe or Odegaard? For me, the answer is Smith Rowe. And when I spoke to people about this, it was very, very split. But what I do really like about Odegaard is his almost like roboticness off the ball. He does so well in terms of pressing and work rate. So when a player is like that, then I kind of think to myself, do you know what? Fine, you're always gonna make. I
always got time for you, yeah.
Yeah, and I've got time for you, yeah. So I do want to see him get better in this league, but you do need time to adapt. I know he was on loan last season, but I still feel like, let's say, come January, at that point, I'll be saying, right, you've had your time to get used to this league now. Now push on, and I want to start seeing him do more on the ball. So yeah, I mean, I still feel like the jury's a little bit out there on Odegaard, not at all on Saka.
I mean, Saka, as you said, you took the words out of my mouth there, man. I think Saka's had a bit of what I feel with more experienced players like Aubameyang and Tini have. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's like when you're carrying this team for so long, and like you said, you can't believe the consistency level. Such is life, if there's going to be sun, there's going to be rain. I think in the same logic, you get the douse of bad form. Saka, I feel he needs to improve in front of goal. And I think being at the Emirates and being live watching the games and whatnot, everyone needs to learn how to take a corner at this club. He's going to live or die by output, and I think he needs to do that. That being said, on his worst days, he's one of our better players. Now, it's more on the club that we need to rely on Smith Rowe and Saka, because arguably there's been times that they could have been dropped. I'm a bit controversial. As much as I'm on the Saka and Smith Rowe propaganda, I actually don't think there's too many players within that squad that have really grabbed their shirt at this moment in time. I think there's been coincidences where we've played Spurs and we've played Villa, and like you said, undroppable. But I think there's been other times, like even Tomiyasu. I love the guy, but based on how he hasn't been poor, but it's like if we had a squad depth, maybe someone else could take a role. I feel people are harsh on Odegaard, and I wanted to ask you before I carry on. you know how you said the jury's out. I know it's a bit harsh because one's bought for around 30 million and they were quoting 70 million for Maddison. Where are you at with that? Because I feel early on in a couple of months, people said credit where due. Odegaard is looking like a more value for money sort of thing. I think I agree with you. I'm like, the jury's still out. I still think there's elements of Odegaard playing within himself. But I would say, like you said, I think without sounding condescending, I think you need to have a certain sort of eye with the fact that he needs to improve to see what he's doing, the pressing and whatnot. And I think when people watch, I don't advocate, but when they're doing, you know, when Arsenal do them all action things where you're seeing all the camera shots, I think people can have an appreciation. That being said, I want him to be the leader. You know, you're one of the most experienced young players we've got. You're Mr. Real Madrid. You know, there should be a golfing class between you and Smith Rowe, where if we scrutinize it, he's only been this established first team player, Smith Rowe, for about 10 months. There should be no contest. So that's the gauntlet I would throw to him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd like to see that, but perhaps that's a reflection on just how well Smith Rowe's done. For me, Smith Rowe has been our most consistent player this season. Even go and watch the first three games. We were awful. He was the best out of the bunch. You know, even in spite of the awful performances around him, he still managed to hold a certain level. So I think Smith Rowe has been brilliant. And the thing is with Martin Odegaard, I want to see more end product there. Obviously, against Burnley, he scored that free kick. That's great. I want to see more of that creativity, and I'm still looking for more. But yeah, we need to be patient. The other thing that I'd say is that people always judge Pepe to the 72 million. So why don't we? It's not his fault that he was signed for 72 million, but yet people judge him for that.
That's what he's going to live or die by. Facts.
Yeah. So isn't it fair to do the same to Odegaard? Shouldn't we judge him against 30 million? In which case, I'd say he's doing fine. Yeah. Shouldn't we judge Tomiyasu against 20 million? In which case, yeah, he's doing fine. If you start judging players against their price tags, well, actually, there's quite a few success stories, and I think Odegaard is good value for 30 million. The one thing I wanted to do was go back to Saka with you, right? Because when I look at the three guys who had obviously a lot of heartache in the Euros for England, Saka, Rashford, Sancho, all three of them are not performing to the levels that they would want to perform at this season.
Facts. Now, even Mount was struggling.
But these are the guys that missed the penalties, that felt like they had let the nation down, you know. Do you think that's coincidence, or do you think there is some sort of Euro hangover? Do you think maybe they're trying too hard, or do you think there's something there, or is it just coincidence?
For me, I think you're definitely bang on. I think there's something in it mentally. I think they've had the wealth of expectation on them, negatively and poorly. I think there's a lot of mental fatigue that people underestimate just being a professional footballer day to day. I definitely think there's in it, because I think if you further scrutinize it, not just them who was involved, there's literally a correlation. You look at Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire. There's I don't know what it is, but there's something between playing at that Euros and a bit of a hangover. And I know Saka had a holiday, but he did kind of come back early. And obviously there's a lot of pressure. So I do think there's a lot of fatigue where Saka is coming from. And I don't want to say giving him the 7 was too early, but it's like life has come at you very quick. And I feel a lot of these young players, they go through the honeymoon period, and then every so often there's that flick of a trick. So you're right, there definitely is something with relation to Saka. And that's why I'm a bit unhealthy in that. Listen, I praise the Haaland boys, they're leading the club, but we shouldn't be in this scenario where we're living or dying, basically, whether with what they're doing. On the topic of Smith Rowe, what do you make of this question? Smith Rowe drives very well with the ball. Is he inventive enough to be an established 10? Shout to you, Prime Pepito, for the question.
I think it's way too soon to answer that question definitively. I appreciate that you're not looking for like a definitive, you know, this is my conclusion, it won't change sort of answer. You're asking at a point in time. At this point in time, in terms of inventiveness, no. He hasn't shown the level of inventiveness to be an established number 10, but it's not all about inventiveness. You get certain players that are very creative, very inventive. Emile Smith Rowe is not so much like that, but what I think he specializes in is eating up territory. So he'll give you so much territorial gains in a game that he manages to influence the game in that way. So I don't feel like inventiveness is everything. He still manages to influence the game. And watching Smith Rowe in the youth team and now the first team for so many years, one thing I always say about him is that he might not look like all guns blazing at all moments of the game sort of thing, but he doesn't play to take part. He always plays to have an impact. You know, he doesn't go through the motions. And we've seen some of his goals, some of his assists. he's traveling 60, 70, 80 yards to do those things.
On and
And
off
that,
the ball.
yeah, on
Facts.
and off the ball. Yeah. And that's what I mean in terms of his territorially. So the fact that he always receives the ball on the half turn, just watch him and appreciate how well he does this. Is because he's always trying to get the team further up the pitch, and by doing so, he takes off so much pressure on the team, and he can just release the ball to players, and it'll look like a simple pass. It won't look especially inventive, but he's already done the hard work by
Facts.
being on the half turn, by beating the press, and that's why I like Smith Rowe, and I feel like he's good enough to be that established number 10.
You took the words out of my mouth again. It's like, yeah, I think obviously, you know, in an ideal world, yeah, you know, probably Saka and Smith Rowe, probably they have been given the number 10s and 7s too easily and too early. When you look at how the club is running, nothing on them because they've earned it. They wouldn't get it without merit. They haven't just turned up and just stole it. They've earned it. I again, like you know, if we're judging it to the standards of creativity that we've been blessed with a club, clearly there's a long way to go for Smith Rowe. He's going to live or die by assists. It's not everything. I look for influence first. I think he's got that and it needs to improve. I think the obvious needs to improve with him, you know, end product sometimes. And I think he gets away with it. Like there was a game, was it against Palace? There was a couple times he could have got his head up and played Pepe. So these things need to improve. But I think he's got it, man. Like you said, I don't think he has the look of a player that's just going to get in there and fly into tackles and things. But he isn't that to a degree, but he's not afraid. And I think that's what you need. He's got confidence to play for Arsenal Football Club. And I think clearly I have to give credit to Arteta because he's been doing that. So I don't think Smith Rowe's got anything to worry about. I just think it's the Saka thing. It's like these lot, if they're not on it today, then what are we going to do? And that's, again, it's more of an Arsenal problem, bro.
Yeah, and also the pass that he should have played to Saka, I think, was it against Brighton, where
A couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, an early diagonal ball takes a defender out of it, Saka's 1-on-1.
Oh, yeah, and he had a shot, yeah.
Yeah, there will be these things, but, you know, I'm sure even with established number 10s, you can come up with a couple of things that they should have done that they didn't do over the course of the first 9 games of a season. All in all, I think Emile Smith Rowe, again, is playing well above the level of a graduate, you know, from academy at a big Premier League club.
He's been involved for 10 months.
Fantastically well. And on the point of did they get the number 10 and number 7 too early, if I was them and I went to Mikel Arteta and I said to him, I want the number 10, or I want the number 7, and Mikel Arteta dared say to me, it's too early, I'd be saying to him, did you not get the manager job too early? He went from head coach to manager.
You know what? When you flip it like that, boy, yeah, man, he can't say a damn thing, can he? Yeah.
Exactly. Facts. He went from head coach to manager in 9 months. I'd be saying to Edu, did you not get your job too early? I'd be saying to Vinay, did you not get your job too early?
That's a fantastic way
I'd
of
be saying to
looking
Josh
at it, man.
Kroenke, did you not get your job too early? Like, where is all of your track records? So you're going to
put it like that. That's fantastic, man.
So yeah, man. Listen, it's you can't have one rule for some, one rule for the other. This isn't the Conservative Party where they do what they like, and then the population has to follow rules.
That's a Tory.
So yeah, listen, that is the reality of Arsenal Football Club, and I think that's a reflection of where we are. That we don't have the luxury of getting the top talent, the top number 10, the top number 7. We do have to make some leaps of faith with certain people. And so far, I think those leaps of faith with Emile Smith Rowe and Bukayo Saka are coming off. So I'm all right with it.
And I think they are coming off, you know, they're just going to get better and better. They tie into what we want to do. You know, obviously we're speaking a lot about attacking talents. Where are you at with Ben White, Mr. 50 million? And I'm sure you can't get away from it and the fanfare of William Saliba and all of that sort of stuff. So I have to press you on that.
I find it really frustrating, this whole William Saliba thing, because
trust me,
I just want to talk about Saliba in his own right. You know, when you have Loan Watch on the Arsenal website, you go and read up on how the Lone Stars are doing. We don't do what, and I know there's a difference. I appreciate that. But with other players that are on loan, we don't, for example, remind me, Mavropanos, is he on loan? Or is he left?
He's on loan, but it's more or less going to be a permanent one. Like they've got an option if they get relegated, there's an obligation. But for the last couple of years, he has been out on loan. You're right.
Yeah, so he's on loan. When he does well, we just talk about the fact that he's done well. We then don't relate it to Gabriel or White. When it's Saliba, all of a sudden it has to be something that we're using against Gabriel and Ben White.
And Arteta,
I'm very happy with how White and Gabriel are doing. So let's talk about Saliba in its own right. And there has been complete mismanagement of his Arsenal career. That's not Ben White or Gabriel's fault. So let's stop criticising them when Saliba does something well. And look, maybe I sound like a grumpy old man here, right?
Nah, man, I think you're saying exactly what I feel, and a lot of people probably listening, to be fair. There's a lot of fanfare and nonsense being said about both.
Yeah, look, DG, I cannot believe how much a fan base of a different club celebrated one tackle when Saliba tackled Mbappe. I mean, come on,
Highlights reel.
celebrate our own players, and it's one tackle. I realised that in the game he was man of the match. He's playing against Messi, he's playing against Neymar, he's playing against Mbappe. I think all three of them played. They
Yeah.
kept the clean sheet. He did really well. Well done. But come on, man. We're in a good place right now at Arsenal. 8 games undefeated. Our players are playing well. They're not embarrassing us when they go on the pitch. They're showing the desired level of effort and work rate. So let's focus on those positively rather than using one of our own who's on loan to criticise them. I do want Saliba to come back, up the level of competition at the club. And, now we're talking about our team for Leicester and we're not sure about Ben White. We should be sitting there saying we don't care because we've got Saliba and Gabriel in the middle. That would be great. But I just I don't understand our fan base sometimes. We're in a good spot right now, so let's keep it positive.
I mean, I think our fan base, there's no balance really and truly, and I think cases like Balogun show it, and the club don't help themselves. I don't think the clubs help themselves with. They made a whole song and dance about Saliba signing, and then to us on the outside for like 6 months last season, we didn't quite know what's going on. This season, I understood him going out on loan. I advocated for him to stay with all the young things we're doing, but I advocated it. If you're adamant on Ben White and Gabriel, that's your first choice. There's not too many games. I'd rather him go and try and get 20, 30 games, preferably in the Prem. All right, you want to go play for Sao Paulo, big club in Marseille, Europa League, all them things, go and do it. I want the best of both worlds. My personal opinion, on one hand, I think he's going to get an opportunity at Arsenal. And then on the other hand, I think they're just going to say, do you know what? He's gaining a lot of plaudits. Arteta don't fancy him. Let's sell him. But for me, I want Gabriel and Ben White to be a fantastic partnership. And then I want him to go and complicate it. We're a long way away from City. But you look at John Stones, Diaz and Laporte, every now and again, one of those players are out. Or if you look at a case where Sterling's played to a great level, he's been a first name on the team sheet, then dropped. Mahrez and Bernardo and Gundogan the same. We need competition. I think fans always cry about squad depth. And then when there's an element of squad depth, we can't get Odegaard because Smith Rowe's there. We can't do this because of that. And I think there might be a change next season. I'm not too sure, but surely, between Holding, Marie and Chambers, maybe not all three, maybe 1 to 2 of them are probably gone. I think we might see a bit more of Tomiyasu occasionally at centre-half. So I'm of the belief that potentially next season we could have Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, probably Holding would probably stay. And then you've got the issue of Tomiyasu. So I want it to happen. I just think it's another stick to beat Arteta with. It's between that and the Guendouzi thing. It's like we're at where we're at now. For me, it's like we can have our opinions, but there's no point crying now. Like if a Saliba goes and he develops and stuff, we need to ask ourselves some serious questions as to what's happening.
I think people look. Arteta is he's no way convinced me yet, but. Come on, he's done enough now for us to kind of say, okay, you've bought yourself more time. We don't need to be on your back. You've bought yourself more time.
Not a pitchfork thing.
He has improved his man management piece. I wonder now, with what he's learnt in management and the way he's now applying himself in terms of relationships with players, whether he would have done the same with the whole Saliba situation or not. Saliba's come out and said in the past that he was given 24 hours or something as a test, and then the decision was made about him.
And then he was gone, yeah.
Yeah, and I just wonder, maybe Arteta's learned from these sorts of things, the way he's treating people is slightly different. As you asked me about Ben White, what I think of him, I think Ben White is furthering his reputation game by game. I think he's doing quite well, and again, we can't make any hard and fast conclusions about him, he would have had to keep to a clean sheet in every single game to justify 50 million, because I think
I don't think he's ever going to justify that. He's just going to have to play well, and then it's not relevant, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the point where it's not relevant is when you can say it's been justified. So that's only going to happen after maybe a season or two. People spoke about Van Dijk's transfer fee for
too much money, etc. It's like 70, 80, isn't it?
Yeah, and now people don't speak about it, but people still speak about Maguire's. So that tells you everything you need to know.
Facts.
When you stop talking about it, that's when you've justified it. That's why you hear about the 72 million for Pepe, because that's the surefire sign as to when you've paid back your transfer fee, when you've justified it. And hopefully, Ben White, we won't be talking about the 50 million in 1 year's time. But it was always impossible for that conversation to not be brought up right now because he hasn't had enough time. So far, I'm like, okay, you started off a bit rocky. You're getting better and better. These next 6 games, again, Ben White will have to play very well, as will Gabriel, as will Ramsdale. Let's see what you've all got, and that then we'll start seeing how frequently that 50 million gets brought up.
That's it. And for me, the only one I'd jump the gun on, and I'd say Ramsdale. I think Ramsdale's blew a lot of expectations, myself included. I think he's proven that if worse comes to worse and he doesn't develop beyond this point, Arsenal can break even and make their money back, English premium or not. So I'd say he's the only one.
Yeah.
Probably Tomiyasu, but for me, the jury's still out. I still think he's good. But it's like, I just feel Ben White, he's either going to be people's cup of tea or not. I think he's a lovely ball playing defender. I think he's a better reader of the game than given credit. I feel someone of his age that, 50 million or not, there's going to be a lot of harsh mistakes he's going to make. Him, Gabriel, and even Saliba if he was thrown in. So I'm encouraged with what I see with Ben White. For me, the thing I love the most is that we're seeing stability. I think Arteta's learned his lesson, whether it's getting new players or whatnot. It's not Marie and Holding this week, Gabriel and this guy, probably a steward next week and things. So I'm seeing a lot of stability. I'm cool with Ben White. Where are you at with Eddie Nketiah? Because I actually forgot to mention him. He's a forgotten man 1 minute and then the other. I think he's deserved the place for Leicester on the bench, really. Let's get him in the shop window.
It's funny, right? With Nketiah, yeah, what he did against Leeds to score his goal is a life lesson for everyone because he had 4 touches. The ball came to him. It was a header that went straight to a Leeds player. And then it was a brilliant touch taken over the keeper. His 3rd touch was a brilliant touch to just get the ball under control and put it towards goal. And then his 4th touch was awful as well.
Yeah.
The life lesson in there, this is some wisdom on this Friday. You don't need to do everything perfectly to achieve your goals. Yeah.
Good way of
putting
putting
it. Sometimes keep the faith, keep working hard. If his head dropped after that header and he was kind of like, oh, that was awful, he never would have done what he did after.
And he goes viral.
And if his 3rd touch wasn't perfect and brought in front of goal, he wouldn't have given himself the margin of error to have a bad touch and still achieve his goal by scoring. I just thought it's a life lesson, and it's absolutely reflective of Eddie Nketiah because sometimes he'll come on and just be brilliant and clinical and good movement and sharp, like the goal he scored in the last round, the
against Wimbledon,
beautiful flick, yeah. And then other times he's come on in his absence. So I just kind of felt like it was so Eddie Nketiah. But I always say there's a player in him. He just needs to be refined. And he's one player that I really thought would make it. I really did. Watching him in the youth teams, I thought he was absolutely clinical. I really liked him. So I was asking the question in my fan cam after the Leeds game, or in fact, it was in my 5 at 5. I was talking about Martinelli,
check that out, people,
Nketiah, and Balogun. And I was saying at the start of the season, people seem to have lost faith with Nketiah. And the order was very, very clear and consistent between Arsenal fans. Martinelli, Balogun, and Nketiah. And now my question, I'll ask you this now then, I guess, DG. What's that order for you now?
I mean, in the pre-season, I'd argue, for me, if I'm picking, I believe Martinelli has a higher ceiling and slightly Balogun, so I'd play. But as I said in pre-season, speaking directly about Balogun and Eddie, because they're strikers, it was naive for anyone to suggest that Eddie wasn't ahead of him. You can have the thought that, okay, Eddie's contract, let's kind of stop playing him, let's do Project Balogun. But you only had to see in pre-season, Eddie was having a good pre-season and he was starting. And, obviously, Eddie at this moment in time is probably not good enough to lead our line. But Arteta has never talked bad on him. He's full of admiration for how he trains, clearly his ability. There was a point where he got in a couple of years ago. He started back-to-back against Newcastle and I believe Everton at the Emirates. So I think, he's ahead of them. There's no way around it. Going into the Leeds game, a lot of people might have said play Balogun. It was probably naive because we need to remember this is a cup game. As you said at the start, if your job's on the line, you need to play who you think's going to win. Clearly, Eddie is ahead of Balogun right now. He's played more senior minutes, speed of thought, all of that thing is there. So again, to answer your question, he's ahead of them. Martinelli hasn't been given consistent minutes, but he hasn't grabbed any headlines. Balogun hasn't really been starved, but I'd say it's probably naivety of Balogun to probably expect at this transitional period where we need to win all the time, as despite young players playing, to think he's going to get the minutes. I would like a loan to be done where Balogun is. I hope Eddie's put himself in the shop window. You're seeing articles saying that we've offered him another 3-year deal, but he wants assurances about his first team picture. Now, again, maybe if he can show his levels, that could be a Lacazette replacement. Personally, I don't think that's the case. So it leads me to believe, what is going to happen there. I think at worst, Can we put him into the shop window? Can we revise that situation in January? Because he can agree things for free in January anyways, really. I'd even say with an English club, because just because it's not legal doesn't mean it can't be done. And him and Balogun have the same agent, which kind of makes me feel someone needs to know what's going down. For Eddie, I don't think it makes sense necessarily to sign a new deal. I think the best thing to do, like you're seeing with a lot of players, and Wenger spoke about it, just run your deal down, see what happens in the summer. Don't commit to Arsenal if I was his agent, because you have a position of power, and Arsenal stand to at least be losing out on what's a conservative bet on how much he costs? Probably 15 million. I'd try to get 20. So yeah, I just hope he's put himself in the shop window, man. Lacazette's very unlikely to leave in January, so that's another season with him. So I can't see where the minutes come for Eddie. I really can't.
Yeah. One interesting comment that just came up, you put up very quickly, was about Tomiyasu going forward is not good enough. And I thought it'd be worth touching upon this.
Yeah, go on.
Because I don't think that we can actually judge Tomiyasu for his going forward ability. He has been signed specifically to almost not go past the half. This is my opinion.
Be that narrow sort of fullback
past the halfway line, generally speaking, in order to allow Tierney to go past the halfway line. We know what type of fullback Tierney is, and we know that teams very often, this is just age-old footballing wisdom in terms of letting both of your fullbacks go past the halfway line is very, very risky.
Unless you're Liverpool, yeah.
Liverpool do it.
Yeah, unless you got it like that, not too many times, or Leicester as well. As you said, it's one forward, one defender, and you kind of overcompensate in that regards.
Yeah, Liverpool do it because they are an elite team and they're very well versed, and then their work rate's phenomenal. They have people that cover and track or whatever. They've got one of the best centre backs in the world.
They've earned that right to be able to do that. Yeah,
exactly. One of the best goalkeepers in the world. But Arsene Wenger used to do this quite frequently, and it used to annoy a lot of people. When both of them go forward, then you leave yourself light at the back. So I think Arteta, when you look at Arsenal's defensive record, the stats came out recently about the last 20 games, was it? Where Man United were bottom, for example. Yeah. When you look at Arsenal, were top. Yeah, Arsenal were top. And that's because I feel that Arteta's focused on that defence. And so for me, I think it's unfair to really judge Tomiyasu on his ability going forward, because that's not what he's been asked to do. I think it's more a reflection of instructions than ability.
All right, let me play devil's advocate then. I guess it kind of applies to Tomiyasu, and it kind of goes above board to Arteta. I hear you. I agree with you. He's been brought in to do that. I do think in modern football, sometimes you have to accept players for what they are. Tomiyasu isn't going to turn into Dani Alves overnight. That's not what he's about. But to play devil's advocate, now, if I'm playing against Arsenal, they overcompensate on that left-hand side. You kind of mitigate against that. If Tomiyasu isn't going forward too many times, now that leaves an area for the fullbacks to attack and the wingbacks to attack. Does he need to improve in that, or does Arteta need to mitigate against that? Because people could suddenly say, okay, let's double up on Tomiyasu's side. And if I look at him and Saka, there's been a couple of times they switched off and it's led to goals, really and truly. Tomiyasu as well in particular. But you're right, he is there to balance it.
Yeah, sure, but it's very early days, isn't it, for Tomiyasu? So let's be really honest about this. Was Tomiyasu on your radar before Arsenal signed him?
No. Well, I mean, he's a fullback that was decent, but I wasn't saying he's the one we need to sign necessarily. Same with Ben White and Ramsdale. No.
He was not on my radar. I had not watched Bologna games. Yeah. Yes, maybe I've heard his name in transfer.
He's a steady Eddie. No one was waxing lyrical. In fact, Sky Sports were quite disrespectful to him, if I'm completely honest, saying that no one ever wants him and all these nonsense things.
Yeah. But it's interesting because that viral Sky Sports analysis was that he's not a right back, he's not a centre back. And that's what he does at Arsenal. Yeah. When we've got the ball, he's a right back. When we don't have the ball, he's sort of
this hybrid centre half, right back thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're being attacked and it's sort of on the counter, another team's on the counter, he's tucked in because our left back has probably gone forward. So he's tucked in that sort of spot where he's not a right back, not a centre back. He's part of a three. In a way, supporting White and Gabriel.
So it helps us on the defensive transition as well.
And I think it's exactly what Arteta has tried to do with him, to kind of say, no, give us that solidity, make sure that we're not going to concede goals on the counter. I don't think I don't think he's had enough time, given that he's not used to this league as well. And my point about whether he was on your radar or not is, for a player that no one was really speaking about, for a £20 million player, I think he's performed above expectation so far.
Nowhere around it. You're right. You're right. Because again, I think, we've been changing a bit. I feel at a point, Lokonga was probably the one that was looking the most value for money. I feel Ramsdale's taking that. I feel
Yeah.
just prior to Ramsdale really upping it and getting there, it was Tomiyasu. Now, I love Tomiyasu for the very fact, and maybe this is why I overcompensate for him, is because I've been starved of just having a right back that can do a bit of everything. I'm
Yeah.
prepared to accept that. Realistically, for me, he's a bit mediocre going forward. I think his passing can improve, but he's good 1v1. He wins his aerial battles. He's
Yeah.
resolute to his task. So I'm prepared to say, yeah, you might need to improve, but I accept you for what you are. And I
Yeah.
think it's like what Josh has said. It's Arteta's tactics that's
Yeah.
making him do that.
And Tomiyasu was the defender first. I've seen a lot of examples
This
where
is it.
he will just put the ball out of play. The ball's coming over. He's maybe not 100% sure where people are. That's it. Put it
No
out, put
risk.
the job on.
I love it.
Get back. I love that. Yeah. You cannot enjoy Arsenal's newfound defensive resilience, which is evidenced by the record of clean sheets and goals conceded in the last 20 games, for example. You can't enjoy that and then also criticize Tomiyasu not going forward and doing the job. There's a very, very high correlation between those two things. So you have to take those things together.
Facts. And that's what it is. I think people forget. I know for me, I always forget sometimes that Tomiyasu's 22. He behaves like he's 30, been around for a while and stuff. So there's an element of still needing to improve. It's kind of what you alluded to earlier. We're not gonna sign too many players that are the finished article. Everybody needs to improve. Everyone in that 11 needs to improve. I'd say arguably who was the last player that there should have been a level of expectation? Probably Partey. People would say Pepe cost 72 million. I'm a bit different to that in that I agree. Anyone you sign for 72 million, the judges has to be different. But I think if anyone that was watching Leo, it was only in the last 18 months, 2 years, he was playing to a purple patch and we was getting a player that didn't quite have that IQ. So I accept that with Tomiyasu. And I think Tomiyasu, he gives me a lot of hope for the future. I do think there might be times it's a free at the back thing. There's things you can flirt between using him. I just like the fact that he's competent, and I get a bit of the Saka thing with him. It's like you genuinely want to improve. Like even the last game against Villa, he might be limited going forward, but he tried to get forward. He was trying, and I like to see that. You obviously know areas that you need to improve, and I don't think we've had too many footballers that have been quite competent in that regards. So yeah, I mean, my last question for you would be, again, I would say if we go back to the Brighton and Palace game, there was a lot of logic. Not that Arteta might get sacked or his head's on a chopping block, but it was almost like it can't really sustain if he's playing that sort of football. So what improvements do you want to see from Arsenal and specifically Arteta moving forward? I'd say once we get out this 6-game period, beyond obviously a positive points tally.
Look, I've always said that it's a lot easier to coach a defensive lineup than it is an offensive lineup. So
Yeah.
Positional awareness and concentration and just like that muscle memory of snapping back into a line, that sort of thing. That's very easy to coach. You can't coach flair. You can't coach sort of that perfect weight of pass, that perfect timing of pass.
That instinctive play.
Yeah, exactly. It's I guess I say you can. It's just very, very difficult. When you look at Barcelona under Guardiola, they were the best example I have ever seen of perfection of pass, where the pass timing, weight, and not only that, part of the body it goes to was so good
The angles
that
they're
it made
receiving it, yeah.
everything easier. Now, some people might not appreciate the intricacy of this. Like, you might on a eye level kind of say he passed it to the man. But if you haven't passed it to the right foot, and not just the right foot, the instep or the outstep of the foot, when you play a pass, you're sending a message on where you want that player to go.
You're giving an instruction.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I know these are very, very high caliber players, Xavi and Iniesta. They trust each other that ball has arrived with a certain amount of pace in a certain direction, and they believe in the message that has been sent with that ball. So they will go on the outside and spin on the outside of the right foot if that's where the ball is.
They'll do what they're being told, yeah.
Because they know what they're being told. This is what I want to see at Arsenal now, because you made a kind of reference to some of the overhit passes and that sort of thing between, let's say, Pepe and Smith Rowe and all of that stuff earlier.
Collectively, the whole squad, really.
I use Barcelona as like the dream. I'm not saying we can get anywhere near that. But what I'm saying is that this is where Arsenal currently is not good enough going forward. We get into promising positions and we waste them with a delay on a pass, or choosing the wrong option, or the weight of the pass, or the direction of the pass, even if it goes to the man,
Or just
not
the
being
intention of the pass is sideways. It's like, no, somebody's waiting on some individual mad minutes of brilliance to make
yeah,
something happen, I'd say as
yeah.
well.
And you know what's funny? One of the best players in our team actually playing that perfection of pass is actually Ramsdale. And
Yeah. He's better than
it's
certain
honestly,
midfielders. Oh
it's
yeah, that ball
really, really
playing in
good.
the last game. Wow.
It seems so sort of random and just weird that I'd pull this out as an example. But there was one pass, I think it was against Aston Villa to Tomiyasu, where it was one of those ones where when you're watching it as a fan, you think, I see what Ramsdale's about to do, and I see there's a risk because
Don't
there
do
was
it,
a
yeah.
player that if he read it perfectly, he might be able to get clear to the ball because you'd expect Ramsdale to kind of hit it straight to Tomiyasu, but instead, what Ramsdale did, he played it with a bit of venom so that the ball curled. It just gave him like an extra. It would have taken the ball an extra yard away from whoever it was up front.
Helped again, sending a message, helping your teammates out.
Yeah, exactly. And what it did to Tomiyasu is that Tomiyasu had to control it with his left foot and then turn around to go up the pitch. So Ramsdale realised what's important in that moment was not getting him up the pitch straight away. It was eliminating the danger of the interception, and the way he played it with the
Facts.
curl and the firmness. I just thought, wow, that's levels that you're looking at here, and that maybe other keepers don't do. We need to transfer that higher up the pitch, and it's easy for Ramsdale to do that because there's no pressure on him. He had the time, the space to look at the
You could see a
situation
whole
and
picture, yeah.
and to shape his body accordingly. Whether we can transfer that, whether Arteta can get that level of precision and perfect passing football up top, that's when I feel like Arsenal unlock a different level to be a serious, serious team. So that's what I want to see.
I mean, that's what I want to see as well. I would say for me, same thing you said, a bit more of our blueprint, a bit more what Arsenal's about, because I can't really answer what Arteta or Arsenal are about right now. If I had to answer, it's probably, our best performance would probably come when we're underdogs, when we're proactively reactive to the opposition. I think that's us. I need to see a bit more front footedness. I need to see a bit more in the final third. I want to just see a bit more of his DNA, what he's about, or it gets to the point where I have to quite kind of judge him on what I'm seeing. I want to see a bit more ruthlessness from him in terms of getting the points and playing well for 90 minutes. But at the same time, we've got a naive squad. And for me, I just want to know again, it's with the players. You need to get in. For me, you need January the 1st needs to come and you have a respectable points tally. And it looks like we're getting Europe. If that can't be done, then I don't really think it's not that I'm saying get him out or he needs to be sacked. But if you do get sacked, I can't really say you have you have a leg to stand on. The goal needs to be Europe. I don't really want Conference League. I'd love Champions League, but we need to be realistic. You need to make Europe. You need to have an improvement on last season. The degree of the improvement obviously is subjective, but that's where I'm at, man. But I would say, Mo, thank you for doing this, man. This has been amazing. I know I'm going to be doing my review tomorrow on your channel. Have you got anything today, tomorrow? What's going on where you're concerned?
No, I'm just chilling today, and then I'm going to do my post-match reaction. But listen, on a final note, I just reiterate that point once more about the next 6 games. The next 6 games, we've got 2 home games we should win. We've got 4 away games, once against Liverpool. So fine, we can write that off to an extent. But the other 3 away
Fact.
games are all against teams that have got exactly the same number of points as we do right now. So these next 6 games are going to show us, are Arsenal going to be up there doing what you've just said we need to do, get a respectable points tally where it looks like we can qualify for Europe come January the 1st? Or is it going to be a case of Everton, Leicester, United, they kind of stretch away from us a little bit and we're still in that transition phase? So listen, that's what I'm looking forward to now. I'm sitting here saying, over to you, Arsenal. You've had long enough. We've got a bit of solidity at the back. Arteta, the pressure's off you a little bit. Let's go and build on things. Let's go and put a decent account of ourselves forward and prove to the fans that actually, look, there could be something to look forward to this season.
Like you said, man, again, the jury's out. Whatever history, whatever story you want to make, whatever history you want to write is completely down to these players. Again, for me, the one biggest thing, if I look at it, 1 minute we're the best thing since sliced bread, then the next game we're quite shaky. So by that logic, the one word I guess I'm looking for is consistency to a greater standard, because I can't speak for no one else but myself. While I praise us for, hard work, tenacity, all these things, I don't think we should be praised for that. I don't think you can be praised for consistency. I don't think nobody praises Liverpool or City for consistency. Now, like you said with your Barcelona point, there's a golf in class, but we need to get past the point of now, and that again goes into probably raising our expectations of praising players for pressing, of switching on for 90 minutes, because these are the things you lot should want to do. Because again, I know we speak of it from a fan's point of view, and I know these players are young, but if we carry on doing what we're doing as a club, some of you are gonna, at some point, you're gonna look at your career and you're gonna think, have I wasted it? You know, you're in a very privileged position. Every game is a blessing, and it's like, I don't know. Again, I'm not naive. They clearly have goals, but again, it can't be nice to always fail those goals. Wouldn't it be nice to come May and yeah, we did the quote unquote somewhat impossible, finished in Europe. There's a platform to build upon. It's like being in any working environment. You want to be part of inciting projects. You want to improve. Now, I think the club do. It's down to them to go and prove it. And, you know, it starts tomorrow at 12:30, man. Really and truly. Mo, this has been amazing. People, again, go and subscribe to Mo. Again, I think the Nightbot looked after it. Again, go and sub to Mo on Twitter. Go and do his YouTube stuff and support whatever the hell he's doing. You know, Instagram, all of that good stuff. I'll be on his channel tomorrow to provide my review of the game. Hopefully, it's a positive 2-3 minutes and not a negative one. But yeah, we'll have to see, man. But we're gonna love and leave you lot. Mo, once again, thank you for doing this on this Friday evening, my guy.
Appreciate it. Love the chat as always, and I'm looking forward to it, man. Let's see what we do against Leicester tomorrow.
Facts, man. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening, my bro.
Take care, bro.
Peace.
There's always just that active red flag, defending.
I think it's like